game has changed. Over the past 2 years, humanity has made leaps and bounds in the progression of AI. And while a lot of it is going to drastically change the world for the better, for artists it feels like it could be the end of their careers. But this isn't the first time that artists have had to adapt to technology that threatens their existence. In the past, artists have had to adapt to technology similar to AI before, and certain philosophers would argue that these adaptations severely change the relationship that we have with art. While it's too early to tell exactly in which ways AI is going to affect modern art, it's easy to see already how it's affecting individual artists. It's killing their motivation. How can we justify creating art when we now have machines that can perfectly recreate our results? The purpose of art at its core could be lost. But intuitively, this feels wrong. For obvious reasons, it doesn't feel right to assume that people are just going to stop making art. Of course they're going to keep going. It's second nature. But that doesn't mean that the intentions and motivations behind the art won't change. Art philosopher Arthur Danto's most famous works, the 1986 essay The End of Art and the later expansion After the End of Art, make fascinating assertions about the modern state of art. First, we'll need to understand that traditionally, and maybe problematically, art was organized into a timeline based on periods and styles. You probably already know a lot of the classics, like Romanticism, Impressionism, and Realism. What Danto realized is that each one of these periods were obvious and clearly divided up, each building upon the previous and slowly progressing as it goes, until a very important moment in history: the invention of photography. This caused artists to frantically begin to explore the fringes of art and explore abstraction, breaking away from the constraints of reality. Reality is boring. We're able to capture moments in time with perfect accuracy. There's absolutely no reason to try and replicate it now. Art began to fall in on itself. All over the globe, you had artists exploring some form of art vastly different from what anybody else was doing. Cubists like Picasso were abstracting forms to the extreme. Dali was bending reality to his will, and you had Warhol painting soup. In Danto's point of view, this schism in the art world signified the death of the linear progression of art. The way we understood and categorized art history is broken, and it's impossible to repair. Up until the invention of photography, art was advancing at a steady pace, but now it's just not so clear. While Danto is clear that this isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does make one huge impact. No single artist can now contribute to the overarching progress of art. Everyone is now isolated. One of the classic questions in art philosophy is, how do we justify the creation of art? What does it do for us? Why do we do it? Is it a waste of time? Now, you can get 1,000 different answers from 1,000 different philosophers, but I think quite a few would agree that the answer to these questions changes depending on time period, especially when we're talking about a smaller scale. What I mean by this is there probably is some sort of overarching general reason why we do art. It's fun, or we like to express ourselves. But I do think the motivations change on the smaller scale depending on time period or context of someone's environment. The reasons behind why ancient humans made cave paintings was likely way different than the motivations behind Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel. For one, Michelangelo was paid almost $600,000 in today's money for his work. But even if we ignore this fact, I think we'd still find that his motivations are vastly different. The cavemen painted mammoths to entertain children and communicate with each other. Michelangelo's motivations were a bit more mystical. Probably something along the lines of trying to capture God's magnificence and the importance of our dedication to him. And I think this is where we start to approach Danto's view on the motivations behind modern art. The motivations behind any given piece are clear up until a certain point. With a little bit of context, you could easily understand what any given piece was about. Photography and ease of communication broke this. Artists began to explore abstraction and other motivations behind their art. So how is AI going to affect modern artists' motivation? Art is a lonely practice. Yes, I make music because, well, it's just part of me. It's what I do. But a big reason why I do it is because I want to reach somebody. I want to make a difference in the world. I want to have an audience. I think this is a big reason why painters were initially so intimidated by photography. A painter just could physically not keep up with the output of just one photographer. How are they expected to get recognition for their work, much less get paid for their now archaic skill? But do you see how silly this sounds now? Now, I'm not blaming anyone for feeling standoffish about AI, and I'm certainly not here to defend the ethics of it. My point is that this isn't the end of art that it feels like it is. And to illustrate just one way that this is the case, I'm going to point out one thing that we all strive for in art that machines just cannot obtain. As I said earlier, art is a lonely practice. A big reason for this is that within the last 20 years or so, almost all art has been created and consumed digitally online. Now, this is okay for most of this internet because you knew there was someone behind the piece that you could connect to and talk to. People like being fans of people and they like being proud of their enjoyment of somebody. But AI just can't provide this. AI art is just something to consume. It's like a Big Mac. And Big Macs have their place in our society. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't the case. They're cheap, available everywhere, and consistent. But that doesn't compare to a fine cooked meal, much less the experience of going to a restaurant, picking up a fine curated menu, and getting a chef to cook that meal for you at that moment. I think art is headed in the same direction. People are going to start prioritizing connection and experience above all else. And what better way to verify the authenticity of a creation than either be present for the creation or watch it firsthand? There is always some sense of defiance when creating art. Art is a fringe activity that only some choose to partake in. And now, with new technology to compete with, the societal need just isn't there. Today, art is more defiant than ever. But that's just the surface level reading. Humans need true art more than ever, and it's going to get harder and harder to find. Soon enough, any artist creating work is going to become a diamond in the rough. You need to find passion in the fact that you are an artist creating art when no one asks you to against an insurmountable wave of competition. Get out there, share your art, make a difference, keep practicing, and keep getting better. You are not a machine. Be proud of that.